was laughing at.
Keep taking pictures.
Bethany?
I will fight you. Yeah?
No, he said that's who I was laughing at.
Oh.
And I asked if he was laughing.
Yeah, right there. And then trace the...
It's not
No, I was
bracing.
laughing at the situation.
Maybe I can
Yeah, it's pretty
record it
much.
online.
What's that?
Maybe I can record it online.
You might be able to. I don't know how long you guys plan on recording.
You could record
Okay.
it to the computer.
We're good.
I could, but you won't get audio.
It depends.
There's no mic.
It depends
Okay.
how long
We
you
don't need audio.
We don't give a shit.
You don't need audio.
No.
We're good.
I haven't touched it in like 45 seconds.
We're good.
If I record this, you're going to get 45 seconds of nothing with no
That's
talking.
true. That's true.
That's not fun to watch.
Yeah, good point.
So are we ready to go? I've got the plane here. I've got a place where I'm going to model. The rotation is correct. The position is correct. The scale is correct. Is that good enough that we can start modeling?
Yes. One
I don't
question.
know. Is that a...
I'm asking you. Are we good enough to start?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
What?
There's something missing.
Librarian.
Well, not much we can do about that, my friend. I can't 3D model you one of those.
Well, you
What are we missing?
Um,
What do you get marks for in this assignment?
Oh, naming the ship.
Holy crap, that's a good idea.
How do you name stuff?
Plane 001 is a bad name. When I go to start looking through my scene at all the objects in my scene, Plane 001 is going to come up, and that doesn't mean anything to me. We need to name this so that we know what it is. This is reference image. Reference with an F, not a D. There we go. Reference image. I'm now going to go to Object Properties, freeze it, and Frozen and Gray is turned off. So now, if I hit H to select things, it's not actually going to show up. But if I hit Show Frozen Objects, there's my reference image plane right there. That means that I know when I go and make selections of things, and I want to select all the components of the gun, I don't accidentally select this thing. This isn't going to be part of my gun. It's a reference image. It's a null object that's in the background. I don't need to worry about it. So now that it's named, it's scaled, it's rotated, it's in position, are we ready to go?
Yes.
There's not one more thing we're missing? Probably.
Is there?
No, we're ready to go.
Okay.
So again, the component that we're going to be modeling today is the entire housing, the main body of the gun. Now, this is made up of both rounded cylindrical areas, like around the barrel here, around the little spinning bit that's attached to the cylinder. It's made up of these large swooping curves and then these big boxy areas, along with this kind of rounded trigger guard that's in here, and it goes all the way down into the hilt of the handle.
Was a flash?
Is it starting again? Yeah. This happened with Rob.
What did?
The projector went crazy.
No, that's delicate taking pictures.
Oh.
Oh no, sorry, but I'm trying to record.
Oh, okay. You
It's
don't
not
need to
recording.
flash if you're recording.
Oh, I accidentally pressed the flash. Sorry.
It's okay. So, this does have a lot of different objects on here, right? What are we going to start with in terms of a base shape?
The body. Oh, it's shape.
We got a lot of primitives to choose from, right? If we go to create, there's a whole bunch of things in here. I'm going to go back to my right camera because that's where I want to create this stuff.
The frame?
Yeah, what shape?
What shape? For the body. Box, cylinder,
Wait, where are we starting?
sphere, teapot.
But
The
use
body.
a spear.
The body. The only thing we're modeling right now is the body.
The entire thing?
The entire body.
Box?
No, no,
Box?
cylinder probably.
Cylinder?
Cylinder?
You guys is useless.
No.
You're just guessing out of left field.
No, I said box.
Yeah, you could like model.
And then you said cylinder.
No, because I'm asking cylinder.
She said it
Did
the
you
wrong
hear
way.
the tone?
Teapot.
Did I hear
Who is more sure and less guessing?
Box.
Bethany's more sure. What are you going to use?
Box.
Why are you going to use a box?
Because...
It's the center of the universe.
No.
So let me ask you an additional question that might help you find the answer quicker. What is going to be easier to achieve?
Baron.
Starting with a box and doing the boxy elements of the gun, and then turning it into a cylinder around where it needs to be a cylinder. Or starting with a cylinder where it needs to be a cylinder, and turning that into boxy elements where it needs to be boxy.
The first one.
Anyone? The second one.
The first one.
Second one.
First one.
Okay, how many, let's look at just the cylindrical area, like the barrel and the cylindrical part of the housing that goes around the
Ooh.
barrel. How many edges around is that cylinder going to be?
4.
4 is a box, sweetheart.
Zero. You stop talking.
You want to make a round 4-sided cylinder?
Mine's
8?
8's good. Now again, remember we're making a high poly object, yeah?
So maybe
16.
25, 30.
10?
Well, here's the idea. How are we going to make it high poly?
More.
More polygons.
More polygons?
More.
Yes, that is the definition of higher, more.
vertices.
But how are we going to make this high poly?
More vertices.
That's what that's.
Yes, you're repeating what Dum Dum said. More is more, yes. How are we going to make more?
Smoother.
We can use connect.
Turbo smooth.
Turbo.
We're going to turbo smooth whatever we make. So let's just do a couple of tests here. Let's make a couple of different barrels. There's one, I'm going to get rid of that. There's one at 18 sides. I'll make one here. Let's do 4 different barrels. Okay? So this one will go down to, let's say, 6. This one will go down to 8. This one will make 12. And this one, the original one, is 18. So here are 4 different barrel shapes that we can use. Now, what else do we have to do in the barrel? What other details are going to be modeled on this big cylinder? Well, it's not a perfect cylinder. It's tapered a little bit, right? It looks smaller at the front and larger at the back. You can see that there's a incline that happens here, and then, right, there's almost an extrusion or a bevel that happens back here. And that's going to go inside the housing of the gun to this back area. There's going to be this sight, the iron sight down at the front. That looks like it's actually been welded on after and not part of the manufacturing process. And so that will end up being a separate piece of geometry. Is there anything else on this thing that we need to worry about?
No. Other than the inside.
Other than
The inside.
the inside is something we need to worry about. What does the inside of a barrel look like?
Circular.
Oh, it's
And
got
empty.
grooves?
It's got grooves called rifling.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
If you look inside a barrel, it looks like this. You have to model that.
Really?
Yeah.
Precise though.
Is it on the gun? Then you have to model it. So how are we going to make rifling on our barrel?
Going crazy.
By going crazy? It's actually only like an 8-second job. It's really not that complicated.
Is there a tool in there for us to do that?
Yes, it's called 3ds Max.
Inside 3ds Max?
There's another tool I'm
A
thinking of
modifier?
carrying, and it's asking dumb questions. You want a modifier that rotates.
Right.
Why don't you just rotate?
But we have to make it, right?
Ooh, I know which one.
So what do we need, polygon-wise, to make this rifling?
Is it just one?
What's the point of this rifling? Anybody know?
So when the bullet comes out, it's comes
Spiral.
spirally, so it doesn't.
Why is that important? Why not just shoot the bullet straight out?
So it can get straight, the straightness, the project
Yeah.
trajectory.
Same way football players throw a football. They throw a spiral. When they throw it, they spin their hand, makes the ball spiral.
Through the
That allows it to go straighter and truer to its mark. It improves the aerodynamics of the bullet. Otherwise, the bullet might start tumbling
Spinning.
and going different ways, and that makes it go less true and
More
won't
dangerous.
actually hit where you're aiming at. Essentially, this is the reason, right? Spiraling makes it go nice and straight. Same thing with a football, goes spiral. A top is the best example of why this happens, right? You spin a top, it stays upright. The centrifugal force of that spinning will keep it upright. So we need to do rifling on our gun. How many edges are we going to need to do the rifling?
A lot.
Well, how many of them are there? We're only looking at a portion of the rifling here.
Let's
Wait,
go
I
to
was
like half.
counting.
Wait, hold on.
I
Can
was
I count?
counting.
Why don't we maybe look at rifling
The
on a
barrel.
very specific gun? Say maybe the Colt New Service barrel rifling and see if we can't actually find what the inside of our gun looks like.
Probably should practice.
Here's a little bit of a clearer picture. Can't quite see what's going on, but we are seeing the rifling here is a lot smaller than on that first picture. Let's keep looking and see if there's anything else.
There we go.
Okay, that's a little bit better. So this one here is an old school Colt. It's not exactly our make and model of gun, but it's close enough to the era that we can use this and probably get away with it. So how many spirals are on here? Anybody able to count that?
1, 2.
Well, here, let's just count these dark swirls. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what does that tell us about the amount of edges we should have on our cylinder?
6. No.
12.
Ah, what's wrong with using 6?
Because that won't get the
If you
difference in
have
grade.
one edge for wherever one of these dark grooves is, well, sure, you're going to have one edge for every dark groove, but there's also a big gap in between the grooves. Now, the distance between these things is fairly even, right? I mean, obviously, we're going to be using something that is based on 6-sided shapes, which means we can get rid of the 8. We now have a 6-sided shape, a 12-sided shape, and an 18-sided shape. Which one of these is best suited? The 12?
Possible.
Why the 12?
There's 6.
This is a very important thing to kind of figure out along the way, because we don't want to get to a point afterwards where we're modeling this and we're like, oh crap, we don't have enough edges. Because it's too hard to go and manipulate a cylinder from 8 edges down to 6. So, which one of these works best? Any idea? Anybody got a guess? These are all divisible by 6, right? This is 6 times 1, 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18.
Well, maybe what you could do is take the larger one, which is 18, and maybe pair them. So you have 2. How would it go?
So here, let's model a little bit more of our pretend barrels here. Okay, I'm going to go to my perspective view, and I'm going to attach these things all together. Attach those guys together, and let's go and make an interior barrel. So right now we just have the outside, right? So I'm going to inset this so that we have something about the size of our barrel and say okay, and then I'll extrude it the other way. So there we have our pretend barrels. Now obviously this one is fairly low res, but that's not to say that it's wrong. If we look at red, dead, redemption, Colt, go look at images of this gun in this game. That's too low res. Let's look at high res pictures. Right, so here's an actual video game that uses really that's the same
Same thing.
resolution.
It's just size you just change.
Right, look at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're using a 6-sided cylinder on his gun. Now this gun is far lower resolution than what we want to make. This is a third-person gun, which means it's a lot smaller on screen than our first-person gun, which is going to be big on screen. So ours is going to be a lot rounder than this, and this is the low poly, we're making a high poly. So they've used 6, and you can see very clearly that it is a hexagonal barrel. It is not round. Ours, we want it to be a fair bit more round. Now, that doesn't stop me from when I put a turbo smooth on this, from it becoming round, right? All of these become round. Should we turn off this edge here? So all of these become round, and in fact, they all become fairly round, but look at what's happening to them